Level 1, bro. It's over. Pack it up. Throw the whole personality away. At this level of confidence, you walk into a room and immediately start looking for the nearest exit, like you just robbed the place. You rehearse hello in your head 4 separate times before saying it. And when you finally say it, it still comes out sounding like a question. Hello? You once said, you too, when a waiter told you to enjoy your meal, and you went home, lay face down on your bed, and replayed that moment every night for the next 2 weeks. Some part of you is still replaying it right now. Your inner voice is your worst enemy, your most dedicated bully, and your full-time roommate, and it never, ever shuts up. It runs a highlight reel of every embarrassing thing you've ever done since 2009. Your brain is basically a cinema that only plays your most cringe moments on loop, and you bought a lifetime subscription. Daily life at level 1 is genuinely painful. You have an idea in a meeting, a genuinely good idea, but you don't say it. You sit there doing mental math about whether people will judge you, whether you'll say it wrong, whether your voice will crack, and then someone else says the exact same idea 5 minutes later and everybody claps. You sit there smiling, dying slowly on the inside, telling yourself, I was gonna say that. Sure you were, bro. Sure you were. You let people skip you in queues because confrontation feels like death. You've said yes to plans you hate, jobs you despise, and relationships that were slowly eating your soul, just because saying no felt scarier than suffering quietly. Someone criticizes you, and instead of responding, you just absorb it like a sponge, a sad, people-pleasing sponge. And here's the most painful part. You already know what the right move is in every situation. You know you should speak up. You know you should walk away. You know you should ask for more. But knowing and doing feel like 2 completely different universes when you're at level 1. But here's what nobody tells you. That hyper-awareness you've developed from years of watching from the sidelines, that's actually a superpower. You read rooms. You read people. You notice things that confident people completely miss because they're too busy performing. That awareness, paired with confidence, becomes wisdom. Without confidence, it's just anxiety with good observation skills. The raw material is there. Construction just hasn't started yet. Level 2. You technically have confidence, the same way a broken umbrella technically has fabric. You're trying, but every gust of wind turns you inside out. At this stage, you rehearse conversations in the shower and still completely freeze when the real one happens. You've typed and deleted the same text message 11 times. You've sat in your car outside a venue for 25 minutes debating whether to go in, and then driven home without going in and told yourself you'll do it next time. Next time has been pending for 8 months. Compliments confuse you at level 2. Someone says, great job, and you spend 45 minutes analyzing whether they were being sarcastic. Someone says you look nice, and you immediately assume they want something from you. You cannot receive kindness without suspicion because somewhere deep down, you don't feel like you've earned it yet. And here's something that's going to sting. You know that voice in your head? The one constantly judging you, worrying about what other people think? Here's the truth. That's not other people judging you. That is you judging yourself. Anytime you're scared someone is going to judge you for what you're wearing, for what you said, for how you laughed, that's your own judgment wearing a disguise. Other people are genuinely too busy worrying about their own stuff to be running a documentary about your flaws. Dating at a 2 is a full contact sport played on nightmare difficulty. You like someone, so naturally you act completely cold around them. 0 eye contact, possibly rude by accident, because showing interest feels like handing someone a weapon. And then you wonder why they moved on. But here's the real talk. The gap between a 2 and a 4 is one decision. Not a year of therapy, not a complete personality overhaul. One decision to stop letting the fear of judgment run your calendar. Most 2s aren't broken, they're just untested. You've been protecting yourself from a wound that hasn't even happened yet. Take the hit. You might not even bleed. Level 3. Welcome to the Fake It Till You Make It starter pack. You've consumed enough motivational content, enough YouTube videos, enough Sigma male compilations to know what confidence looks like from the outside. So you started doing a very convincing impression of it. The walk is decent, the voice is coming along. You've even started making eye contact for about 2.5 seconds before looking away like you just stared into the sun. But here's your fatal flaw. The moment someone pushes back on literally anything you say, the whole performance collapses like a house of cards in front of a ceiling fan. Someone disagrees with your opinion, and suddenly you're backtracking, over-explaining, and agreeing with them just to make the discomfort stop. You change your answer based on the room. You say you like whatever the cool people like. You pretend to have seen movies you haven't, to have opinions you don't actually hold, because being liked feels more urgent than being real. Here's a scenario. You enjoy rap music. Someone comes up and says, I love pop music. What do you listen to? And you, at level 3, say, oh yeah, pop is great. I love pop too. While internally, you cannot stand pop music. And this seems harmless, right? But what you just did is you traded a piece of your actual identity for 2 seconds of social comfort. You did it without thinking. You do it constantly. And over time, you don't even know who you actually are anymore because you've been performing a version of yourself for so long. A truly confident person in that exact moment says, pop is great, but honestly, I'm more of a rap guy. Simple, clean, real. If the other person says, rap, that's not even real music, you say, maybe to you, but I enjoy it. And you don't flinch. And you don't elaborate because you don't owe anyone a defense of your taste. But here's the upside of level 3. The performance, repeated long enough, starts to become reality. You're building the muscle even if it still feels like acting. The costume, worn long enough, starts to feel like clothes. Keep going. The almost. Level 4. Level 4 is the most quietly frustrating place on this list. And I say quietly because even your frustration is polite and non-confrontational. You're not paralyzed by fear anymore. You're functional. But you're negotiating against yourself before anyone else even gets the chance. You think of the salary you want, then immediately calculate a more reasonable number. Then go even lower so you don't come across as arrogant, and you walk into the meeting asking for a number that won't embarrass you. Your employer says yes immediately, and you go home knowing you left money on the table. Again. You have opinions at level 4, real ones, but you share them only when asked, only in safe company, only when you've already tested the temperature of the room. You have dreams, but they live strictly in private, because what if you say it out loud and it doesn't work and people find out you tried? The embarrassment of a public failure feels worse than the quiet tragedy of never starting. And relationships at a 4, you can maintain them, but starting them still requires a running start. You stay in situations longer than you should because leaving requires a confidence that's still under construction. Here's the thing about 4, though. You've already eliminated the worst of it. You're capable. You're not a mess. You just haven't fully decided yet. And that's actually the whole thing. 4 is less about ability and more about a decision. The decision to bet on yourself even when the outcome isn't guaranteed. 4 is the last floor before the elevator starts going up fast. Stop overthinking. Press the button. Level 5. Dead center. Perfectly average. You're not hiding under a table, but you're also not owning any room. You exist in conversations without leading them. You're brave inside your comfort zone and mildly panicked just outside it. You can give a presentation if you absolutely have to, but you'll lose sleep 4 days before it, sweat through it, and then spend 2 days after it replaying every sentence you said. This is where most people actually are. And if you think you're a 7 right now, there's a very real chance you're a 5. Your mom called you special your entire life, and she meant it with her whole heart. But the rest of the world is still making up its mind. Daily life at a 5 is comfortable but unremarkable. People like you fine. You get the job done, but nobody is calling their friends saying, bro, you have to meet this guy. The energy on him. They're saying, yeah, he's solid. He's nice. Solid and nice are 2 adjectives that have never changed anyone's life trajectory. Here's the real issue at 5. You're still outsourcing your self-worth. If someone rates you, you adopt their rating. If someone treats you like a 6, you start feeling like a 6. If someone treats you like a 3, you quietly wonder if they're right. You've handed people a remote control to your confidence, and they're clicking through channels, and you're just sitting there changing. Stop that. The value other people give you is a reflection of the value you give yourself. If you're rating yourself a 6 out of 10 in your own head, that energy is visible. Start rating yourself a 9. Not to be arrogant, not to be delusional, but because the conversation you have with yourself about yourself sets the ceiling for everything else. Level 6 is where confidence starts paying actual rent. You walk into a room and you don't immediately scan for threats. You speak in meetings without the post-meeting spiral where you replay every word you said and cringe into the void. You ask for things, not always without nerves, but you ask. You've started showing up as yourself in situations where you used to show up as a muted, heavily edited, apologetic version of yourself. And you've realized something crucial at 6. Most people are so focused on their own insecurities that they are barely paying attention to yours. The audience you were performing for your whole life, they were in the dressing room dealing with their own stuff. You were not under a microscope. You were never under a microscope. One of the biggest shifts at 6 is this. You stop hiding your weaknesses and you start start owning them. Because here's what separates a confident person from a nervous person. Nervous people hide their flaws. Confident people weaponize them. You're short? So what? Napoleon was 5'6" and ran half of Europe. You don't apologize for your height. You make it part of your identity. If someone points it out, you say, yeah, and? Because history is full of people who achieved more in 5-foot frames than giants did with 6-foot ones. Your hair is thinning? Stop doing the comb over. Stop pretending. Shave it clean and wear it like a choice, not a loss. Because the person trying to hide the flaw is broadcasting the insecurity. The person who owns the flaw makes it disappear. And at 6, you've started making real eye contact. Not the nervous, fleeting, look away after 1 second kind. Actual, settled, I'm comfortable being seen eye contact. If you want to understand what that looks like, go watch Thomas Shelby in Peaky Blinders. That man doesn't say much. He doesn't have to. His eyes have already had the entire conversation. Level 7. Above average, and rooms can feel it before you even open your mouth. You walk in with a posture that says, I've been here before, even when you haven't. You speak at a pace that doesn't rush to fill silence, because silence doesn't scare you anymore. Silence is where you do your best thinking, and you've made peace with it. At 7, you ask for what you actually want, in salary negotiations, in relationships, in every room you walk into. And you're genuinely okay with the answer being no, because a no from the wrong situation is just a redirect toward the right one. But here's something about level 7 that most confidence videos won't tell you. Real confidence at this level is quiet. You've stopped announcing yourself. You got a promotion at work? You don't need to bring it up. You bought something nice? You don't need to tell anyone. Genuinely confident people don't perform their wins because they don't need your reaction to confirm that the win happened. Let people discover who you are through your actions and your presence, not through your announcements. You know the guy who just bought a new car and needs to mention it in every conversation? That's not confidence. That's insecurity with a nice paint job. A truly confident 7 lets people find out on their own, and when they do, it hits differently. At 7, you also stop changing your opinions to match the room. Someone challenges your taste, your choices, your values, and you stay put. Not aggressively, not defensively, just calmly, completely unmoved. That's your preference. This is mine. Full stop. No further debate needed. Level 8. Level 8 is where life changes texture. Failure stops being something you fear and starts being something you file. You try something, it doesn't work, you note what went wrong, you adjust, you go again. No shame spiral, no 3-day depression after one bad interaction. You debrief, not catastrophize. At 8, you've fully internalized something that sounds simple but takes years to actually feel. You don't need anyone's approval. Not in a rebellious, I don't care about anything kind of way. In a deep, settled, genuinely self-sufficient kind of way. You have your own life. You have your own judgment. You have your own direction. And you don't require a committee vote to proceed. And here's where it gets really interesting. At level 8, other people's confidence stops threatening you. A lower level person sees someone bold, someone charismatic, someone successful, and feels diminished by comparison. An 8 looks at the same person and thinks, interesting, what can I learn from this? You're not competing anymore. You've left the competition entirely. But the trap at 8, and there is one, is that this is the level where some people stop being teachable. You've got enough confidence to back yourself in almost every room, and that can quietly harden into arrogance if you're not paying attention. The greatest people in any field are simultaneously completely secure and completely open to being wrong. That combination is rarer than it sounds. Level 9. At level 9, you've become something genuinely unusual. You've built your confidence not from avoiding failure, but from surviving it repeatedly, publicly, and coming back anyway. You've been wrong in front of people. You've been embarrassed. You've been rejected and talked about and underestimated. And every single time, you absorbed it, processed it, and came out more solid. And here's the thing that makes 9s different from 8s. When someone says something about you, criticizes you, calls you out, tries to embarrass you, you don't fight it and you don't collapse. You just agree with the parts that are true and release the parts that aren't. If someone calls you a liar, you don't launch into a defensive monologue about your integrity. You look at them and say, maybe, but not more than you, and you move on. That ability to absorb an attack without flinching, without needing to win the exchange, that is genuinely the most disarming thing a human being can do. So Socially, nines are often quiet. They don't need to dominate rooms. They don't need to announce themselves. They just exist with a settled energy that other people feel before they can explain it. Conversations naturally orbit them. Decisions get deferred to them, not because they're loudest, but because they're most grounded. And here's the most important thing nines understand that took them years to fully feel. People love talking about themselves, their stories, their adventures, their wins. A nine doesn't walk into a room trying to impress. They walk in genuinely curious about other people. And paradoxically, that makes them the most impressive person there. But protect your circle at 9. You will attract people who want to absorb your energy rather than generate their own. They'll drain you quietly and then resent you for it. Be generous. Be wise. Level 10, the decided. A lot of people say a level 10 doesn't exist. They haven't heard of Muhammad Ali. This man called himself the greatest before he held a single world title. Not after the wins, before. He walked into press rooms as a young, completely unknown fighter and told the entire world's media with full sincerity and zero irony, "I am the greatest of all time." They laughed at him. He did not care. Because Ali's confidence didn't need your agreement to function. It didn't run on your approval as fuel. It was self-generating. He backed it up. He beat Sonny Liston when nobody gave him a prayer. He beat George Foreman in Zaire when every expert said he was done. He came back after 3 years, stripped of his title, his passport, and his income, and won the heavyweight championship of the world again. He didn't just refuse to quit. He genuinely refused to even consider the concept of quitting as a thing that applied to him. At level 10, you have fully decided to be yourself. Not a performance of yourself, not an edited, market-tested, focus-grouped version of yourself. Yourself, completely, irreversibly, unapologetically. And that decision radiates. Rooms rearrange themselves around you, not because of what you have, but because of how completely you've decided who you are. Walk like you're a king, or walk like you don't care who the king is. Either works at 10, because at 10, the comparison doesn't even occur to you. You stopped measuring yourself against other people so long ago that the measuring tape doesn't exist anymore. But here's the most important thing. Ali was afraid. He said it himself. Before fights, before moments, fear was present. The difference was that he didn't give fear the steering wheel, which means level 10 isn't something you're born into. It's something you decide your way into, one uncomfortable choice at a time, starting from wherever you currently are. God gave everyone a different starting hand in this life. Some people were born into environments that built confidence naturally. Some of us had it knocked out before we even knew it belonged to us. But your starting position is not your permanent address. A level 1 who decides to grow, who starts owning their flaws instead of hiding them, who stops needing approval to feel real, who speaks their actual opinions in actual rooms to actual people. That person will outgrow a level 8 who coasted on what they were handed. The whole game is just deciding over and over in small moments and big ones. So wherever you are on this list right now, what's the one decision you make today? If you liked the video, subscribe. I post on confidence, money, mindset, and power. None of the soft, surface level stuff, the real talk. See you next time.